Hello, this is Dr. Paul Cottrell, and I'm going to be going over Biden's speech that he did today. It's already been announced, so I'm going to replay it and uh, interject at certain points in time. Obviously, the speech is mainly about the Israeli-Hamas war, but there's other components to it that also include Ukraine. But before I start, as you know, Biden is not aging very well. So it's prudent for you to follow my anti-aging protocol. So to do that, you need to go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. And if you follow my advice, you are going to be healthier. The pillars are basically neutralize pathogens, bring down reactive oxygen species with strong antioxidants, and reduce pro-inflammatory cytokines. How do you do that? Well, you use the structural nanosilver products that I offer, such as the liquids and gels, the soaps and lozenges, and you will neutralize pathogens. By doing that, your body isn't constantly fighting a pathogen and in a pro-inflammatory state. When you reduce reactive oxygen species, like taking C60 that I offer in avocado and coconut, C60 is a very strong antioxidant. And by doing that, you are soaking up those charged oxygens that are in your cell that are causing damage. And you're reducing the chances of necrosis of cells, and you're reducing the damage that's going on in your mitochondria. So you have more energy. In addition, by bringing down those pro-inflammatory cytokines, you're reducing that additional stress that is happening at the cellular level. By taking turmeric, that will reduce inflammation, that pro-inflammatory response. Also, to control your blood glucose levels with ashwagandha, that will also help with reducing that inflammatory response that happens with high glucose blood levels. So take my advice. In addition, you can take, these other supplements, but it also is prudent to have proper sleep, proper diet, proper exercise, and proper mental exercising, such as reading. I'm not talking about the news. I'm talking about like books, a real book, not an ebook. Read a book, about different topics, maybe history or, a science topic or, philosophy or economics or, whatever you want, a novel, but, challenge your mind and speak to people, talk to people, that are in your neighborhood or your family members, but don't, talk to them not so much on the phone, but in person. Because what you'll see is that when people are engaged in the real world and not separated by the real world by the phone or by communication like Zoom or whatever, but if you're just with that person face to face, there's multiple dimensions that are taking place in the communication. There's these soft skills that people get, picking up on someone's feelings by their facial expression, not just their tonation of their voice, which is much harder if you're just tweeting away or if you're just writing an email, right? So exercise those brain cells, right? So proper diet, proper exercise, proper sleep, proper brain exercising, reading, writing, talking to people. Don't get angry. There's no reason to get angry. Well, sometimes there's a reason to get angry, but it's a tongue-in-cheek kind of joke. but the point here is that try to improve your health, because if you don't, you're going to end up like this guy. All right. And as we get older, our healthcare costs go up. So it's prudent to invest in your body by changing your lifestyle in such a way where you're allowing your body to heal. And the best medicine is preventative medicine. All right. Meaning, you try to prevent disease. Don't get to a point where you have a disease that needs to be treated. There's a lot of side effects in terms of, the allopathic way of solving some of these problems. And it's just better to be prudent and proactive in your health when you're younger. So with that said, go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, so you don't turn into a bite. All right. Now, I'm going to play the video and comment. This is the speech that he just did today. This is October 19th.
Good evening, my fellow Americans. We're facing an inflection point in history. One of those moments where the decisions we make today are going to determine the future for decades to come. That's what I'd like to talk with you about tonight. Early this morning, I returned from Israel. They tell me I'm the first American president to travel there during the war. I met with the Prime Minister and members of his cabinet. And most movingly, I met with Israelis who had personally lived through horrific horror of the attack by Hamas on the 7th of October. More than 1,300 people slaughtered in Israel, including at least 32 American citizens. Scores of innocents, from infants to the elderly grandparents, Israelis, Americans taken hostage. As I told the families of Americans being held captive by Hamas, we're pursuing every avenue to bring their loved ones home. As president, there is no higher priority for me than the safety of Americans held hostage. The terrorist group Hamas unleashed pure, unadulterated evil in the world. But sadly, the Jewish people know perhaps better than anyone that there is no limit to the depravity of people when they want to inflict pain on others. In Israel, I saw people who were strong, determined, resilient, and also angry, in shock, and in deep, deep pain. I also spoke with President Abbas, the Palestinian Authority, and reiterated the United States remains committed to the Palestinian people's right to dignity and to self-determination. The actions of Hamas terrorists don't take that right away. Like so many other, I'm heartbroken by the tragic loss of Palestinian life, including the explosion at the hospital in Gaza, which was not done by the Israelis. We mourn every innocent life lost. We can't ignore the humanity of innocent Palestinians who only want to live in peace and have an opportunity. The assault on Israel echoes nearly 20 months of war, tragedy, and brutality inflicted on the people of Ukraine, people that were very badly hurt since Putin launched his all-out invasion.
You will notice as he continues on with the speech, because of the funding that he's going to be requesting Congress to pass, that funding is going to be tied to the help with Israel and the help with Ukraine. And me personally, I am tired of funding the Ukraine war as an American citizen. And our funding with the Ukraine war needs to stop. And that the funding for the Ukraine war should not be wrapped up in the funding of the Israeli conflict. And you got to remember, and he will bring this up, but he's asking funding for humanitarian aid for the Palestinians, and also funding for the security of Israel. Now, what I found out today that I did not know about, I didn't know this until today, that the United States government funds a big part, if not most of, the Iron Dome. I personally think that the Israeli government and its citizens and its industry in tech can afford their own ability to fund the Iron Dome. I don't believe that American citizens should be funding the Iron Dome. Now, I am for helping Israel, as especially in intelligence and military support. And if weapons need to be sold to Israel, but Israel needs to, come up with their own funds to purchase them. I'm for supporting Israel, but not us funding Iron Dome. Now, I'm also against the humanitarian aid package that he's suggesting to give to the Palestinians, because where is it's in the tune of about $100 million. That $100 million could be partially provided by Egypt, partially provided by Jordan, partially provided by Saudi Arabia. Why can't the good guys, that are against Iran and they want to help the Palestinians that are in the Islamic world, pool together their resources to fund? Now, most likely they are giving money. I don't know how much money they're giving to the Palestinians. I'd be shocked if it's only the United States. So I don't know what their number is. But I don't think the United States should be funding the Palestinians with the humanitarian aid. There's humanitarian aid that comes from the UN, that we, provide through our donations and our support of the UN. Where's the Red Cross? Where's, all of these NGOs that have all this money that they have accumulated from the private sector, right? Just private donations. Why can't they help? Why does it have to be the United States taxpayer having to provide the $100 million? See, this is another way for people to be on the take. And it is the Democratic Party is notorious for being on the take. You give some aid, and there's some back channels through different companies or whatever, and somehow, some way, they get a portion of that back in their own pocket. That was what was going on with the funding of Ukraine. And these special deals that were going on with China. That's how this guy got rich. So don't think that all that money, $100 million, is going to Palestine, or even, whatever the package is for Israel, that it's all going to Israel. There's going to be kickbacks. Now, I don't know if it's going to go to his pocket directly, but it sure as hell is going to somehow, some way go to the different people they're passing this bill in Congress. So the American people need to say, enough is enough. If Israel needs weapons, we'll sell them. Israel can afford buying the weapons. If they need support because of, certain types of technology or certain types of things that we have in our arsenal that they don't have or not enough of, and they need, air support or whatever, I'm for supporting them. But I am against sending billions of dollars for their Iron Dome while they could afford it themselves. And, and I'm for Israel in this war. I'm not for Hamas at all. And I take a very strong stance about, what I think is happening, that we're in the stepping stones of an era where we're going to be building the temple in, maybe 216 years. But this event is a major part of allowing that to happen. And that the borders of Israel need to go to its biblical boundaries, which is much bigger than what Israel is right now. And that also means that Palestine's gone, and the Palestinians are off the are not in the borders of Israel, and they amalgamate within the other nations, the Islamic nations, to allow for peace and harmony to exist for the building of the temple. That's a very strong stance. Not everyone agrees with me. Very few people agree with me, but that's okay. You know, I'm not looking for people who agree with me. So, but this I'm against. I'm against the funding. We fund these wars to speed up Israel to do what it needs to do. The big brother, United States, needs to pull the plug on the funding.
Nation. We've not forgotten the mass graves, the bodies found bearing signs of torture, rape used as a weapon by the Russians, and thousands of Ukrainian children forcibly taken into Russia, stolen from their parents. It's sick. Hamas and Putin represent different threats, but they share this in common. They both want to completely annihilate a neighboring democracy, completely annihilate it. Hamas' stated purpose for existing is the destruction of the state of Israel and
the United States government. And again, I am not for the funding of Ukraine. The United States government, ever since the fall of the Berlin Wall, has had a posturing of growing NATO and moving eastward in the European theater and threatening or poking the bear, which is Russia. The United States, in its international policy, created the issue. On top of this guy was on the take with all the corruption that's going on with Ukraine. This guy benefited from it financially. But we're going to spend more. We're going to wrap an aid package for Israel while they're in their crisis, give some money that's, $100 million or whatever to the Palestinians, while, NGOs could be doing that instead, the American taxpayers. And then on top of it, we're going to spend hundreds of millions more, if not billions more, in Ukraine. Meanwhile, he's under investigation for corruption. I'm using different conduits, different company conduits to launder money from aid that was going to Ukraine and, business deals with China. And we were supposed to take this guy seriously. Now he's aging for sure. But when he was VP, he was much more with it in terms of his mental capacity. And all this stuff, all this money that was starting to get washed, right, through these conduits, that was during his VP-ship. And, now, there's a problem. We were meddling with the elections of Ukraine back in the time when he was part of the Obama administration. Trump was not wrong. There's tons of corruption going on in Ukraine. And if it's so important, why can't the Europeans deal with the problem? Why does the American taxpayers have to pay for what's going on? But this is strategic, what they're doing with the aid package with Israel. It's amazing.
Israel and the murder of Jewish people. Hamas does not represent the Palestinian people. Hamas uses Palestinian civilians as human shields, and innocent Palestinian families are suffering greatly because of that. Meanwhile, Putin denies Ukraine.
Why doesn't the Palestinians kick out Hamas? Why do the majority of the Palestinians allow for Hamas to take root? And not what if the Palestinians really wanted peace, really, really, really wanted peace, right? They would find a way to get rid of Hamas. But instead, they embraced Hamas. I'm not saying everybody in their society embraced Hamas, but a large enough population in the Gaza Strip has embraced Hamas instead of doing self-governance. So they're at fault. The Palestinians allowed Hamas to take control.
As Ukraine has or ever had real statehood. He claims the Soviet Union created Ukraine. And just 2 weeks ago, he told the world that if the United States and our allies withdraw, and if the United States withdraw, our allies will as well, military support for Ukraine would have, quote, a week left to live, but we're not withdrawing. I know these conflicts can seem far away. It's natural to ask, why does this matter to America? So let me share with you why making sure Israel and Ukraine succeed is vital for America's national security. You know, history has taught us that when terrorists don't pay a price for their terror, when dictators don't pay a price for their aggression, they cause more chaos and death and more destruction. They keep going, and the cost and the threats to America and the world keep rising. So if we don't stop Putin's appetite for power and control in Ukraine, he won't limit himself just to Ukraine. Putin's already threatened to remind Poland that their Western land was a gift from Russia. One of his top advisors, a former president of Russia, has called Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania Russia's Baltic provinces.
Again, this would not have happened if it wasn't for the advancement of NATO and the Eastern Front.
These are all NATO allies. For 75 years, NATO has kept peace in Europe and has been the cornerstone of American security. And if Putin attacks a NATO ally, we will defend every inch of NATO which the treaty requires and calls for. We'll have something that we do not seek. Make it clear, we do not seek. We do not seek to have American troops fighting in Russia or fighting against Russia. Beyond Europe, we know that our allies, and maybe most important, our adversaries and competitors, are watching. They're watching our response in Ukraine as well. And if we walk away and let Putin erase Ukraine's independence, would-be aggressors around the world would be emboldened to try the same. The risk of conflict and chaos could spread in other parts of the world, in the Indo-Pacific, in the Middle East, especially in the Middle East. Iran is supporting Russia in Ukraine, and is supporting Hamas and other terrorist groups in the region, and will continue to hold them accountable, I might add. The United States and our partners across the region are working to build a better future for the Middle East. One where the Middle East is more stable, better connected to its neighbors, and through innovative projects like the India, Middle East, and Europe Rail Corridor that I announced this year at the summit of the world's biggest economies. More predictable markets, more employment, less raids, less grievances, less war when connected.
When you throw in economic policy and long-term strategic vision in the middle of this kind of speech, I think discombobulates everything. I think that should have been taken out. But what it is that this is a little nugget for the presidential election. Right? I helped Israel. I helped Ukraine. I helped Hamas. I'm helping build connections economically to bring peace to the world. See, that part of it was, I personally think, is a campaign speech.
It benefits the people who would benefit the people of the Middle East and will benefit us. American leadership is what holds the world together. American alliances are what keep us, America, safe. American values are what make us a partner that other nations want to work with. To put all that at risk, we walk away from Ukraine, we turn our backs on Israel. It's just not worth it. That's why tomorrow I'm going to send to Congress an urgent budget request to fund America's national security needs, to support our critical partners, including Israel and Ukraine. It's a smart investment that's going to pay dividends for American security for generations.
provide security to the world, and pay dividends to Americans for generations. Now think about that. Let's repeat that together. Pay dividends for generations. We heard the same thing when the fall of the fall of the Iron Curtain happened. And ever since, we have been in a war footing in the United States. We have not seen the peace dividend. We have continued on, especially post 9/11, on a serious war footing. And Ukraine is a proxy war. So we have not, the far majority of the time, since the fall of the Berlin Wall, we have been on a war footing. And we have been poking the bear as we're growing NATO, moving forward eastward. The peace, the dividend that he's talking about is if you have stock in actually the military industrial complex. Oh, we'll make money on this. And we have been making money on a war footing, but it's not a peace dividend. It's a war dividend. And those are two different things, because a peace dividend means I'm being taxed and you are being taxed less for armaments, for the Pentagon, for national defense. That's a peace dividend. And we take that money, that saved money, and we start actually building back the country, like our infrastructure and our school systems, and making sure that Social Security and the elderly are taken care of, providing opportunities for businesses to thrive in America. That's the peace dividend. But instead, we've been with a war dividend since George Bush Sr. George Bush Sr., we've had a war dividend. Clinton, we've had a war dividend. Bush Jr., we had a big time war dividend. Barack Obama, we had a war dividend. Trump, we've had a war dividend. And now Biden, senile Biden, and we have a war dividend. Where's the peace dividend? It's very simple. There are a few people that are making a lot of money on this war dividend, right? Well, the majority of the middle class is seeing their country in the United States getting worse and worse. Their situation is getting worse and worse. The inflation is getting worse and worse. The ability to raise a family is getting worse. The society is breaking down. So this dividend for the generations is the dividend for family wealth. Maybe the Johnsons or the Rockefellers, or the Swansons, or a multitude of the upper echelon of society. That's the dividend that he's talking about. But if you're Joe Blow from Cincinnati, you're not getting a dividend for the generations. You're going to get taxed. You're going to see inflation, and you're going to see your inner city starting to crumble, and your society starting to crumble. And that when you are in the world of retirement, right, and you are seeing the sunset of your life, you're going to look back and you're going to say there was a huge waste, all under the disguise of the peace dividend. So no, we don't need to fund more. Israel can buy, we could sell. This is a transaction. We can support, if they need, special support if it gets hot and heavy with Iran. Yeah, we need to get involved. I'm all for that. But sending billions to Israel, sending hundreds of millions to the Palestinians, sending 6 billion to Iran, sending billions, hundreds of billions to Ukraine. No, no, no. They can buy. We can make, we can sell, but not give. The American public has been taxed to death, and we've been seeing our inner cities crumble because of this. And a very, very few are benefiting. So no, Israel, you can pay for your Iron Dome. But I am for supporting Israel. But supporting Israel and funding Israel are two different things. And I don't think that Israel needs more funding. And sure as hell, the Palestinians shouldn't be getting funding. Their own people in the surrounding countries should be funding the humanitarian, and all the NGOs of the world should be funding the humanitarian aid to the Palestinians.
Help us keep American troops out of harm's way. Help us build a world that is safer, more peaceful, more prosperous for our children and grandchildren. In Israel, we must make sure that they have what they need to protect their people today and always. The security package I'm sending to Congress and asking Congress to do is an unprecedented commitment to Israel's security that will sharpen Israel's qualitative military edge, which we've committed to, the military edge. We're going to make sure Iron Dome continues to guard the skies over Israel. We're going to make sure other hostile actors in the region know that Israel is stronger than ever and prevent this conflict from spreading. Look, at the same time, President Netanyahu and I discussed again yesterday
This is an important point here. If Israel keeps on thinking that they can wage war in that region and not get the job done because Big Brother is going to be there to fund it, the best thing to do is to pull the funding and force them to either come to an agreement or go hot and heavy and sweep Gaza and the West Bank and get the job done. See, the problem is that if there's always going to be money sent, there's always going to be corruption. There's always someone on the take. There's always someone skimming. And there's no emergency to get it done. So the best thing that we can do for Israel is to say, the clock is ticking, get the fucking job done. Get the job done. Don't go half-hearted, go all out and sweep and get the job done. But if you always have America saying, well, that's too much, that's too much destruction, you can't do, you can't, this is the problem that we're having with the United States. Oh, we're telling Israel a lot of times to tie their hands behind their back, and they can't go all out. But then we'll be, sending the money for the next conflict and the next conflict and the next conflict. Some people, I've seen some people in the chat box, type something like "rip the Band-Aid off," which is a good phrase, but it's more than just a Band-Aid. I mean, but I get the point. The Israelis need to get the job done, and the American people need to stop paying for it. The Israelis can pay for their Iron Dome. The United States should sell it, sell the arms, and the Israelis can buy it, right? And we don't need to give aid. There's no reason to ask for more money out of Congress to send to Israel, because where's the incentive? Where's the incentive to stop this? Because people are on the take. People will skim. Who they are, I don't know. but they'll be. I'm sure the Democrats are skimming on this, but on the Israeli side, they're skimming. There's always someone skimming when you're talking about billions of dollars like this. Stop the corruption by the never-ending wars by getting the job done. If Zelensky can't get the job done, time's up, dude. Americans have paid too much. Get your funding someplace else. Get the job done. If you can't hold your country, then maybe you didn't deserve it.
The critical need for Israel to operate by the laws of war. That means protecting civilians in combat as best as they can. The people of Gaza urgently need food, water, and medicine. Yesterday, in discussions with the leaders of Israel and Egypt, I secured an agreement for the first shipment of humanitarian assistance from the United Nations to Palestinian civilians in Gaza. Hamas does not divert or steal these shipments. We're going to provide an opening for sustained delivery of life-saving humanitarian assistance for the Palestinians. As I said in Israel, as hard as it is, we cannot give up on peace.
Why are we asking for an extra $100 million of aid from Congress when we can just, why can't UN provide that now? You know, we've already paid into the UN. They have stockpiles of the shit. All those NGOs, you know, Bill Gates can spend the $100 million. He makes $100 million in a day on the stock market, you know, with his investments. These NGOs and these nonprofits, they can pay for it. The Americans don't need to pay for this.
We cannot give up on a two-state solution. Israel and Palestinians equally deserve to live in safety, dignity, and peace. You know, and here at home, we have to be honest with ourselves. In recent years, too much hate has given too much oxygen, fueling racism, the rise of anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, right here in America. It's also intensified in the wake of recent events that led to the horrific threats and attacks that both shock us and break our hearts. On October 7th, terror attacks have triggered deep scars and terrible memories in the Jewish community. Today, Jewish families worried about being targeted in school, wearing symbols of their face walking down the street, or going out about their daily lives. And I know many of you in the Muslim American community, the Arab American community, the Palestinian American community, and so many others are outraged and hearty, saying to yourselves, here we go again with Islamophobia and distrust we saw after 9/11. Just last week, a mother was brutally stabbed. A little boy here in the United States, a little boy who just turned 6 years old, was murdered in their home outside of Chicago. His name was Wadiha, proud American, a proud Palestinian American family. We can't stand by and stand silent when this happens. We must, without equivocation, denounce anti-Semitism. We must also, without equivocation, denounce Islamophobia. To all you hurting, those of you hurting, I want you to know I see you. You belong. And I want to say this to you. You're all America. You're all America. This is in a moment where, in moments like these, when fear and suspicion, anger and rage run hard, we have to work harder than ever to hold on to the values that make us who we are. We're a nation of religious freedom, freedom of expression. We all have a right to debate and disagree without fear of being targeted in schools or workplaces or in our communities. I must renounce violence and vitriol. See each other not as enemies, but as fellow Americans. When I was in Israel yesterday, I said that when America experienced the hell of 9/11, we felt enraged as well. While we sought and got justice, we made mistakes. So I cautioned the government of Israel not to be blinded by rage. And here in America, let us not forget who we are.
The two biggest mistakes that we did, three. First, it was an inside job. We let it happen. Two, we went after Saddam Hussein in Iraq under the idea that he had weapons of mass destruction, which he didn't have, which was all a canard from the CIA. And third, it was a never-ending war. Why? Because we had continual funding from Congress and people were skimming, and the military industrial complex made a ton of money. Again, the war dividend. Instead of just saying, get the fucking job done and get out. Once again, they didn't take lessons from World War II. You know, we were able to do so much more with so much less in terms of technology in World War II than we could during the Middle Eastern conflict right after 9/11. Why? Because there wasn't a will to get it done. Because everyone, you know, was tied to this war dividend. Those are the three mistakes that happened. War is destructive, and surgical precision type war is more expensive and longer lasting. Just get it done.
We reject all forms of hate, whether against Muslims, Jews, or anyone. That's what great nations do. And we are a great nation. On Ukraine, I'm asking Congress to make sure we can continue to send Ukraine the weapons they need to defend themselves and their country without interruption, so Ukraine can stop Putin's brutality in Ukraine. They are succeeding. When Putin invaded Ukraine, he thought he would take Kyiv and all of Ukraine in a matter of days. Well, over a year later, Putin has failed, and he continues to fail. Kyiv still stands because of the bravery of the Ukrainian people. Ukraine has regained more than 50% of the territory Russian troops once occupied, backed by US-led coalition of more than 50 countries around the world, all doing its part to support Kyiv. What would happen if we walked away? We are the essential nation. Meanwhile, Putin has turned to Iran and North Korea to buy attack drones and ammunition to terrorize Ukrainian cities and people. From the outset, I've said, I will not send American troops to fight Ukraine. All Ukraine is asking for is help for the weapons, munitions, the capacity, the capability to push it.
I'm pretty sure our special forces are on the ground helping. I'm pretty sure about that.
To push invading Russian forces off their land, and the air defense system to shoot down Russian missiles before they destroy Ukrainian cities. Let me be clear about something. We send Ukrainian equipment sitting in our stockpiles. And when we use the money allocated by Congress, we use it to replenish our own stores, our own stockpiles with new equipment. Equipment that defends America and is made in America. Patriot missiles for air defense batteries, made in Arizona. Artillery shells manufactured in 12 states across the country, in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Texas. So much more.
The war dividend.
You know, just as in World War II, today patriotic American workers are building the arsenal of democracy and serving the cause of freedom. Let me close.
The arsenal of democracy for the cause of freedom, for the war dividend.
Let me close with this. Earlier this year, I boarded Air Force One for a secret flight to Poland. There I boarded a train with blacked out windows for a 10-hour ride each way to Kyiv, to stand with the people of Ukraine ahead of the one-year anniversary of their brave fight against Putin. And I'm told I was the first American to enter a war zone not controlled by the United States military since President Lincoln. With me was just a small group of security personnel and a few advisors. But when I exited that train and met President Zelensky, I didn't feel alone. I was bringing with me the idea of America, the promise of America, to the people who are today fighting for the same things we fought for 250 years ago: freedom, independence, self-determination. As I walked through Kiev with President Zelensky, with air raid sirens sounding in the distance, I felt something I've always believed, more strongly than ever before. America is a beacon to the world. Still. Whereas my friend Madeleine Albright said, the indispensable nation.
He took money while he was VP. That was slotted for Ukraine. He is part of the corruption in Ukraine. And we're supposed to take his word seriously as President of the United States. Well, the historical record since the fall of the Berlin Wall has been a war footing and a constant encroachment onto Russia. The indispensable nation, only because of our money. Because us dumb Americans allow for us to continue to be taxed, either directly or indirectly. Directly by increasing our taxes at the federal level for funding the war machine, or the inflationary effects that take place on our currency.
Tonight, there are innocent people all over the world who hope because of us, who believe in a better life because of us, who are desperate not to be forgotten by us, and are waiting for us. The time is of the essence. I know we have our divisions at home. We have to get past them. We can't let petty, partisan, angry politics get in the way of our responsibilities as a great nation. We cannot and will not let terrorists like Hamas and tyrants like Putin win. I refuse to let that happen. Moments like these, we have to remember who we are. We're the United States of America. The United States of America. And there is nothing beyond our capacity if we do it together. My fellow Americans, thank you for your time. May God bless you all. May God protect our troops.
President Biden, a rare public.
And another amazing thing about this, from ABC, I find this anchor to be one of he looks so fake. So fake. I mean, couldn't they pick an anchor that didn't look fake? Maybe they are fake, or maybe all of them are fake, but I mean, just pick someone that doesn't look so fake. All right, with that said, I said a long time ago, probably in the early days of the Ukraine war, that there was this fracturing that's taking place in Ukraine, and that the Hasidic movement, Baal Shem Tov, it all started there. It all started in this region. And that a fracturing of a country is kind of creating a charge, very similar to a crystal. Let's say you have a ionic crystal, right? Let's say a salt crystal, for example. Sodium chloride, they're ions, right? So they're not covalently bonded, but there's a charge. And you put them together, chlorine's negative charge, sodium is positively charged. So the salt crystal is allowed to build up because of the closeness of these ions. But if you separate them, then there is a positive and a negative, right? But when they're close together, it's neutralized, right? And they're attracted together, and it's kind of in a state of calm. But when you pull them apart, there's a charge. Well, same thing. When you're dealing with the spiritual, especially when things on our plane are in the physical, we do things in the physical that actually are very metaphysical. They affect the world above us. So when the splitting of the country, was creating this charge. And I said that, something big is going to happen. I didn't know what it was, but when these things happen, and when I say big, I think I use the term, that there's going to be, through the conflict and through death and destruction, there's also going to be an issuance of knowledge, an issuance of um, of understanding, right? And that could be of a spiritual and of the sciences. So discovery in the sciences, but also there's going to be a flow of understanding of the spiritual because of this spreading. It's analogous to the splitting of the parts with Adam, or not Adam, Abraham. The splitting of the parts of Abraham, where he took the different animals, I believe it was 5 of them, he cut them in half and then walked through the parts to talk to God. All right. That was the splitting. That was a physical manifestation in this world to create a charge to be able to get knowledge from the divine. Okay. So, splitting the Sephiroth, creating a charge, just like the tree of life it's a crystal in a way, and you can you spread it out, it creates a charge, and there's an energy that's created. Another way to look at it is the cherubims that are on the ark. There's a charge, and in the center is a special place of energy. Well, Abraham walks through the parts to get this knowledge. Well, something similar is happening with Ukraine. I had no idea that this thing was going to be tied to Israel. So it's not by accident that he's saying this in his speech, but he doesn't know. He's saying it from the context of international politics, domestic consumption, and the funding of the wars and the war dividend. But there's something else. There's another hand in the works here. So what is happening in Ukraine is tied to what's happening in Israel. I still disagree with the funding. I don't think we should be funding Ukraine, and I don't think that we should be funding Israel nor the Palestinians. Ukraine should be buying the weapons. The Europeans should be supporting them financially, not the United States. And Israel can pay for the weapons. We shouldn't be sending funds to Israel. They have enough money. And what it does is it pushes them to get the job done quicker. But there is, on a spiritual component, the separation of Ukraine creates a charge that is ushering in an abundance of knowledge in science and in the spiritual realm. And this charge is ushering in also another milestone for the temple. Now, some people will disagree with me, but there is a connection, and it's because of the Bel Shem Tov originating from Ukraine. And I said this right when the Ukrainian war happened, was that there's this fracturing. Now, what I thought was going to happen was that the fracturing would be all the way up to that river that bifurcates the country, Ukraine. I don't know the name of it. I forgot the name of the river, but that river, right? And I thought Russia would go up to the river, and then you would have this, this 50-50 charge thing. But just the fracturing of the country is enough to create the charge. I thought it would be up to the river, but I was wrong on that. But there's still a fracturing and a conflict that's happening. There's a charge, right? If everything was copacetic in Ukraine, then it would be like the salt crystal. The sodium and the chlorine would no longer be in its ionic state. It would be in a neutral state in a crystal. And the flow of energy would stop, right? but it's fractured and there's a charge that's taking place. It's it's a biased charge because it's not a center split, but there's a charge there. So there's this connection on a metaphysical perspective between Ukraine and what's happening in Israel with Hamas. And it's not by accident. Because of these Kabbalists that originated from that area. Right? So keep that in mind, is that there's a spiritual component that's taking place here. And I'm not wrong on this. So that's my take on his speech. I think that when Trump does a speech like that, he has more energy, and that, he's more forceful and gets the job done better. I do see that we have a president that's failing, domestically and internationally, and also his health is failing. He's getting older, and he doesn't have the attributes to be president any longer. Maybe never. So, and I'm against the funding. I'm against the funding mechanism. I'm against the funding of Ukraine because the Europeans can be funding this, and I am against the funding of the Palestinians because the NGOs, the UN, and these other different nonprofits can easily fund the $100 million, and Israel should be financing their own Iron Dome. We could be selling them the weapons, but they should be buying. They should be paying for it. And my understanding is the far majority of the Iron Dome is American taxpayers. That's my understanding. I could be wrong on that, but I don't think so. I think the far majority of the Iron Dome is actually paid for American taxpayer money. So with that said, please support my work by subscribing to all of my channels. You need to subscribe to the 3 YouTube channels that I have. Make sure you click not just the subscription button, but also the notification button. I am heavily censored on YouTube because of the things that I've said in terms of the crisis that we just went through, right? And I also have 3 other channels. I have Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble. All the links are in the description of all my videos. So click the link in the description box of the video, of this video or any of my videos, and subscribe to all my channels. Please help support my work by going to Patreon and picking a certain membership tier. I think I have 3 or 4 tiers to help support my news coverage. In addition, you can donate on my homepage. My website is the-studio-reykjavik.com. And at the bottom of the homepage, you can donate on Stripe or PayPal to help support my news coverage. You can also support through donation through Buy Me a Coffee. All the links are in the description. So buy me a coffee, click the link there. You can click the link for Patreon, or click the link for the-studio-reykjavik.com, which is my website, to help through donation. I also have a store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, that sells healthcare products, right? And I sell a lot of different products that are tied to structural nanosilver, C60, all natural deodorants, and a plethora of supplements. Some of them are from Amio, some of them are from Boomer, most of them are from Boomer. So some of the things that I offer, such as Max 35. Max 35 is this is a liquid. It's 35 ppm of structural nanosilver. I take a teaspoon of this a day. I gargle it. I swish it in my mouth and I swallow it. 30 seconds each time, right? 30 seconds for the swishing, 30 seconds for the gargling, and then swallow. And that will neutralize pathogens. I also have a silver gel, which is great for applying on your skin to improve skin health, but it's great to neutralize pathogens. You can put it on your hands, around your mouth, and lightly coat your nostrils, around your nose, and around your ears, and inside your ear canal. Lightly coat, and it will neutralize pathogens. You cannot do that with Perel. This is a substance that is safe and will neutralize pathogens and also improve your skin if you follow my skincare protocol with vitamin C, 64 ounces of water filtered, and taking the collagen that I offer to help with building up the dermal layer. This will help with the topical part of the healthcare. Not the health, the skincare. I have structural nano silver soaps of different varieties. This one happens to be the oatmeal spice, but I also have like charcoal tea tree and lavender and peppermint. One of the strongest antioxidants that you can take is C60. I offer it in 2 ounce, 4 ounce, and 8 ounce, either in avocado oil or in coconut oil. And by taking a teaspoon of this a day, you are going to neutralize those reactive oxygen species. Why is that important? Because oxidative stress will make your cells go into necrosis and also reduce the well-being of the cell and the mitochondria that's in the cell. By taking this, you're reducing that stress on that cell and improving your ATP and improving your mitochondria and reducing the necrosis that can take place on those cells. So in other words, by doing this, because it's a very strong antioxidant, you're actually aging slower. Some of the products that I have for the supplementation are lignans. This is a powder. This is a flax, right, powder. This is for hormonal health and also for immune. I put this in my hummus every day with my probiotic. I also have a powder probiotic and I have a capsule probiotic. But I mix this with the probiotic with my hummus in the afternoon to help with improving my gut biome. And then this is to help with your immune system and your hormonal health. Clarity factor is great to reduce that brain fog. A lot of people that are roaming around in the United States, they have brain fog because they don't filter their water, they're eating GMO food, they're eating crappy, but this will improve mental clarity. So please try this and you'll be able to concentrate better. I take it twice a day, in the morning and in the mid-afternoon. This is the Amio multivitamin product that I offer. Please, add this to your protocol to, improve your health and follow this anti-aging that I've been doing for years. And you'll notice huge benefits. I have vitamin C here. So this is important for not just preventing scurvy, right? But vitamin C is also a good antioxidant, but the C60 is much better and much more potent than vitamin C. Vitamin C can only neutralize one reactive oxygen. This because of the type of molecule it is, it can neutralize hundreds, if not thousands. So, it's much more potent than vitamin C. But vitamin C is also important for good skin. So this is part of that protocol I was saying, is taking the silver gel, putting it on your skin, leaving it on it for about 5 hours, taking the vitamin C every day, drinking 64 ounces of filtered water throughout the day, right? You leave this on your skin at night, and this will tighten it up and clear the skin. This will help to create links, cross links, and better dermal layer in your skin with the collagen, the powdered collagen that I offer. That's the basic for skincare. But then if you add the C60 and the resveratrol, the C60 will help to improve the basal layer because it's a strong antioxidant. But also the resveratrol will get rid of senescent cells around that basal layer so that the tissue is going to be actually younger because you're getting rid of the cells that are kind of stuck in a non-divided mode because it's reached its capacity and burned down its telomeres. So when you take all these things together, because it's synergistic, the reason why my protocol works is because it's not one thing. Oh, just take vitamin C and it'll be okay. Or just take C60, it's going to be okay. There's a synergistic thing that's going on because you're attacking it from multiple angles. And because of that, you're going to see your health improving much quicker. Turmeric, to lower that inflammation, is a very important. Taking this, and if you're not feeling well, take more of it. And what will happen is that you'll start to see an improvement. Again, because this is anti-inflammatory. For recovery, if you're working out, you take this after, you're going to recover quicker. Ashwagandha, great for controlling your blood glucose levels. Right? And we also have, it also helps with, because it's helping with the glucose levels. This is tied to the adrenal glands and the cortisol levels and all that. D3 helps with absorbing calcium, but also it's a transcriptional factor that help with gene expression. This helps with getting rid of cells. It helps to get cells that need to go into apoptosis to go into apoptosis. But not just that, your cells need to gene express certain things to be healthy. Well, if you are not taking enough vitamin D3, you're not having the same level of gene expression that your cells need to be. So take the D3. This is the powdered probiotic that I take with lignans. I put this together in hummus. I mix it because it's a powder, and then I take it in the afternoon. But this is a great probiotic. If you regularly take a probiotic, you're going to improve your gut biome. You're going to improve your digestion, and you're actually going to improve the communication between your gut and your liver, because your liver does a lot of metabolism, and also your gut and your brain. There's evidence to suggest that depression is partially caused by a poor gut system, poor gut biome. But improving your gut biome will radically improve your metabolism. Digestive enzyme complex. When you work out and you need to fuel to recover, you need to break down those carbohydrates, those proteins that you're taking, those fats that you're taking. This is great if you're working out, but also when you get older, your pancreas doesn't work as well. It kind of burns out. So this will help to break down those carbohydrates and those proteins and those lipids, those fat molecules, those lipids that the pancreas actually secretes these enzymes to help break down. But if you get older, you need a little bit of help. This will help you be able to break those things down better and reduce the stress on your pancreas. Resveratrol, like I said, this is a very good antioxidant. It's synergistic with the C60, and it gets rid of senescent cells. So this is why a lot of people that take resveratrol as part of their anti-aging protocol. But if you notice, I'm mixing this with the C60. You're taking this with the C60, and you're actually getting an additional benefit from this. And I've partnered up with Rainbow Herbals, and these deodorant bars, either in citrus, and I have another one in peppermint tea tree, are made from the Himalayas, uh, uh, essential oils from the Himalayas. And these bars are amazing, very high quality. There's no aluminum in it. It's all natural, and you will be amazed at the detoxification effects of using this deodorant bar. So get this deodorant bar and you will benefit because of the detoxification effects, but also just the quality of it being a deodorant bar. And you won't smell like President Biden. So those are the products that I offer. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and follow the protocol. You know, you start a little bit. If you're just starting out and you're not sure, what to get, start with, maybe the C60, or start with the resveratrol, or start with the turmeric and the ashwagandha, or the max 35 or the max 14. But start, and then you can build onto it. And you'd be amazed that over time, by neutralizing pathogens, reducing the reactive oxygen species, and bringing down inflammation, and adding a few other things to that, you'd be amazed at the compound effects and how you will age slower. All right. And, I'm a firm believer that preventative medicine is the best medicine, and that, it's not a cure, but taking control of your health is what's going to prevent worse things down the road. Healthcare for people that get older, it gets astronomically expensive. But if you take care of your body, such as cardiovascular disease, if you take care of it early, then the cardiovascular disease problems and all the medication that people go on when they're older because they have high blood pressure or high lipid counts, right, can be diminished by just being proactive and focusing more on preventative care. For example, taking turmeric and taking ashwagandha brings down the inflammation, right, and controls the blood glucose levels. When you have in the intima of your blood vessels, okay, you can get stress and you can get damage. And when you get that damage, lipids will get into the inner lining of the actual blood vessel and merge and get eaten up by macrophages. So these lipids will become oxidized and they get eaten up by the macrophages, and they turn into what is called a foam cell. And this is the beginnings of the plaque buildup. All right. Plaque buildup actually starts when you're 16 years old, called yellow streaks. And it's just a streak, that's a small streak that starts in your blood vessel. But if you reduce that inflammatory response along the surface of the blood vessel by taking the turmeric and the ashwagandha and the C60, not the C60 will reduce that oxidative lipid, the chances of having the oxidative lipid, and reduce the foam cell. But also by taking D3 with MK7, MK2, K2, MK7. So taking D3, which is this, right? D3, and you take it with K2, MK7. All right. What's going to happen is you're actually going to start to reduce the plaque, even if you have plaque buildup. So there's two things that are going on. You're trying to reduce additional plaque buildup, right? Any additional plaque, but you're also trying to reduce the current plaque. And what people can do naturally is taking D3 with K2, MK7. K2 is a type of vitamin. I don't sell it. K2, but there's two types of molecules, an MK7 molecule and an MK4 molecule. You want the MK7 molecule. So you take D3 with K2, MK7. You take the turmeric, you take the ashwagandha, and you take the C60. And what's going to happen is you're actually going to reduce the chances of cardiovascular disease by reducing additional plaque buildup and reducing actually the plaque that's formed over time. Because what they had found was that people that take higher doses of D3 with this K2, MK7 with metformin noticed that for blockage, like 50% blockage or more, that months later being on that protocol, it reduced when they did the ultrasound. So so you can mimic that with the metformin by taking the ashwagandha, because it controls the blood glucose levels, and you're reducing that inflammation and additional intimal stress by taking the turmeric. So, and then you have the foam cells that are starting to build up. You're reducing those oxidative lipids, the LDL, the oxidated LDLs, by taking the C60 because it's an antioxidant. It's a very strong antioxidant. So I just gave you the recipe to prevent cardiovascular disease. You know, instead of going down and having to take all this heart medication and taking, statins and all that crap that's going to end up hurting you in the long run. So take my advice and take a look at the products that I offer and improve your health. Be proactive, because when you get older and you don't do this, it's going to cost you in the long run when you have more severe disease like heart, cardiovascular problems and heart attacks and problems with your liver because of lipids and a lot of other problems that can take place if you're not proactive, right, with your health. But again, it's not just supplementation, it's also proper diet, proper exercise, proper sleep, and proper mental health. You have to have a positive mind, try to focus more positively. Praying or meditating can help, but also challenge your mind by reading, writing, and talking to people in the real world. And you will, over time, you're going to notice that your life is going to be better. You're going to be happier, but not just that. You're going to actually see that your body is slowing the aging process down. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting my work. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Thank you for listening and have a nice night.